So welcome everyone to the last event of the Science Women's Network online event series for 2024. So this is part 2 in our Careers Beyond Academia Non-Linear Career Pathways webinar series that we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. And we're really excited to have three really awesome panelists, Anna, Cristina, and Vásquez from the Latin American University of Science and Technology in Costa Rica and ExploreTerra, Jacqueline Campbell from Asterisk Labs in the UK, and Helen Swagerty from River Partners in the USA as well. And we're very excited to have everyone join us in the audience as well. So a bit about what to expect during today's event. So we have a quick event overview for the next few minutes, followed by some panelist introductions, and they have a really fun format that you'll see. A moderated panel discussion for around 35 to 40 minutes. And this has been curated using all of the content that you sent us in registration, followed by a breakout session where you'll be able to meet panelists in a breakout room and talk to them more freely, and then we'll close the event. And a quick disclaimer, this is an ESWN hosted event with speakers from different organizations. A bit of housekeeping, so please remember to abide by ESWN's Code of Conduct. If you've joined us and haven't signed this, please take a moment to go to our website and have a look. All aspects of this event, except for the breakout rooms, are being recorded for those that can't join us live. You can also rename yourself. All of you right now are ESWN event attendees. If you want to keep that and stay anonymous, you're more than welcome to, or you can rename yourself with your name. This event is also fully closed captioned, and you can use the little CC button at the bottom of your screen to show or hide those. You'll be muted for the duration of the event. You shouldn't be able to unmute, but if you find you can, please remember not to maintain a nice quiet environment for our speakers. Please remember to send your questions to questions@ESWN. So one of us will rename ourselves to that momentarily. Remember to share your thoughts in the chat as the event progresses. So we're all virtual, and it's always really great to hear what you're thinking. If you have any tech issues, also remember to send them to the questions host. A bit about the Science Women's Network if you've not come across us before. So ESWN is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing diversity across the geosciences, with an emphasis on creating and supporting a nurturing community, working for cultural change to eliminate barriers to a diverse scientific workforce, and empowering scientists through professional development. And a bit about what our motivations were behind hosting the event. So there are so many careers beyond academia, and your earth science background can really make a difference and take you to lots of different places. Non-linear pathways are also really cool and completely normal, and everyone should be proud of having one. So now we're each of us on the organizing committee are going to introduce ourselves. So I will start by handing over to Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Konstantino. I'm a water resources engineer, and I work in the Western US.
My name is Raymat. I am currently on the ESWN leadership group and currently adventuring in the world of UK research councils.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ilana Pollack. I am a research scientist at the University of Colorado through the Cooperative Institute for Research in the Environmental Sciences, but I work at the NOAA Chemical Sciences Laboratory here in Boulder, Colorado.
And I'm going to introduce Katie, who's not on the call today, but she helps us put on these webinars and has for years. She is at Sirius at University of Colorado, working in education and outreach. And now we're going to transition into some Ignite presentations from our panelists. We're really excited about these presentations. They're a fun kind of improvisational way for our panelists to introduce themselves, their background. So they've all taken the time to prepare some wonderful slides, and I'm going to be presenting the slides. We're going to start with Anna. Take it away.
Thank you. My name is Ana Vásquez. I am from Costa Rica. I come from a small town in the middle of the country that is surrounded by coffee. So my background is slightly different than most people. I majored in anthropology and thought of focus initially on social sciences. My personal and professional experience led me to get more involved in environmental science, to the point I made my PhD in geochemistry. So what this change? I love sciences and I make early decisions based on the availability of funding and all the constraints regarding to the global south and research opportunities. So once I got the chance, I dive deeply into science and earth science especially. So I do enjoy the duality moving from humanities to science. And as a researcher, I love the lab work and the field work, but I do miss the outreach. So when I am doing something more related to humanities, and now that I'm teaching, I do love teaching, but I miss my lab. So mostly when I am doing my work, I try to find a balance of 30-70. So some part of, if I'm majoring on ocean sciences, I will try to leave at least aside to outreach and to develop something related to humanities. If I'm mainly focusing on humanities, I will try to do extra things to go back to the ocean and having these consulting projects and environmental impact assessments. So I refer to a duality because now I reached the point where the scientists needs to understand, we would have reached the point where scientists needs to understand the regulations, and we need to have the ability to explain our science to policymakers. If you want science-based decision in the governments or generally, but also for funding allocation. So when you work especially on deep sea or ocean sciences, you also need to understand what are the rules regarding marine research. So do not be afraid of change and find new versions of yourself. So just remember that when you are out of the comfort zone, it's where the magic happens. So for me, it led me to move to China and start a new adventure in marine chemistry. And it was astounding, but it was one of the best decisions I have ever made. So those are the moments that you get to prove yourself and you find yourself being able to do these great things that initially you thought it was impossible. So this also lets if you have an amazing group of people behind you, supporting you during this process, like I found in Geolatinas when I was in China doing my PhD during the COVID times. So having a network behind you makes a big difference when you're trying to make this process of changing from social sciences and humanities into this new version of yourself. Or for me, like getting into contact again and moving from a senior position into a student again. So that will be all for me. And if you are going to AGU, please visit the Gelatinas stand. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna. Apologies for the technical difficulty of it getting stuck on that one slide. That was wonderful. All right, Helen, are you ready to go?
I am. I'm Helen Swagerty, and I'm the Director of Grants for a nonprofit organization called River Partners. I'm located in Sacramento, California in the US, but I'm originally from the island of Molokai in Hawaii. I come from a small island community that prides itself in retaining their traditional lifestyle and culture. So my fish pond in the backyard was a classroom for me, where my grandparents taught me about invasive species, erosion impacts, and wildlife. I left my island and went to the University of Oregon at first because I thought I was going to get into geology, but then I switched over and went to Oregon State because I wanted to be in their environmental science program. And I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science with an emphasis in environmental geosciences because I wanted to focus on the interactions between land, water, soil, and humans. But then I took a break my last semester. I had a little guy that took me away from environmental economics and hydrogeology, but it was a great break. I became a stay-at-home mom for a few years and moved to California. And a few years later, I entered the workforce took a chance on working for a nonprofit organization that focused on bringing life back to California rivers. And I spent a lot of time on a backhoe digging soil pits to understand site conditions and designing restoration projects. And then I moved over to larger, more complex regional projects where when the state of California decided to invest in strengthening their levee systems, I became involved in 3 large setback levee projects and on the Bear and Feather Rivers that it's 40 miles north of Sacramento. I also led a planning process to identify how we could remove Army Corps rock revetment that will allow the Sacramento River to create a cutoff channel so a pumping plant facility could still operate and still allow the natural river processes to create fish habitat. But then I jumped into public service and worked for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, worked on wetland management, and then got called to work on the Western Monarch plan that the Western, this is really fast. But then I came back to nonprofit world and I wanted to go big. So I became a director of grants and pulled a team together to secure $80 million of work in the last 3 years and earned a $40 million earmark. The results is why I do it, because it's fun to see threatened and endangered species come to our restoration projects. And it's just a stamp of approval by wildlife. It's great. And then, oh, no, it's stuck. Internships and great mentors have really shaped my work. They taught me to think outside the box, take a lot of risks, and to develop some transferable skills that like budgeting, project management, working with divergent stakeholders. But to keep me all sane, I surround myself with my favorite people. And they ground me, and I have fun cheering at soccer games, so you can always hear me screaming. And then I have a lot of fun and adventure in a off-road vehicle going over rocks and stream crossings. Really exciting, but glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen. All right, Jacqueline, are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Wonderful.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jacqueline Campbell. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here and for the people who've come to see us speak. I am an Earth and planetary scientist, but I've had a bit of an unusual path into science and then out of it and then back into it again. So hopefully it can be some use to you. So I left school having failed my kind of exams and became a tube train driver for 11 years, then a care worker for autistic kids and adults. Then I worked in a bike shop. That is not me. That is 3 times Tour de France champion Tadej Pogacar, but I didn't have a picture of myself on a bike. And then I did evening classes and correspondence courses with the Open University, UCL and Birkbeck to get my science knowledge up from a high school level. And then eventually I went on to study at the University of Brighton. I was interested in geology, but not so much of sort of oil and gas stuff. So I picked an earth and ocean science degree, which allowed you to pick a lot of sort of ecology and environmental stuff, and also a lot of stuff about mapping and remote sensing. So I was very interested in satellite remote sensing and space science in particular. So after that, I then went to UCL's Mullard Space Science Laboratory and did a PhD where I was looking for signs of life on Mars. Mars is a beautiful planet. It's not as dead as it looks, but we've not found life there yet. So what I was looking for was dynamic features that change and uncover dust that has been protected from the UV there, particularly the south pole of Mars, which you can see a zoomed out image here of, and then a zoomed in image. And this uncovered dust that I could look for traces of maybe the building blocks of life. And I did lots of lab experiments to support looking at the data, but I didn't find life, or you would know my name. But I did get to travel around a lot and go to visit NASA and the USGS and European Space Agency and present my work and meet lots of wonderful, interesting people, and met a lot of people along this whole journey that helped me with my sort of non-linear career path. So that was really great. And then I applied for a postdoctoral fellowship with Schmidt Science Fellows. That is me, third from the top left, with much longer hair. And this means you have to pivot to a whole new field to do your postdoctoral fellowship. So I did that at Oxford, and for that I moved back to Earth from Mars to look at Earth's oceans. And I did, again, lab experiments to try and understand ocean acidification and see if you could monitor ocean pH from space. And that was in the pandemic. And so it was a bit of a disaster. And this also didn't work. So after that, I then left academia and I went to work in a startup. This is not me. This is my old colleague, Daniel. I didn't have a picture of me in this lab, but this was at a startup that did AI automation for robots that do liquid handling experiments for drug discovery. So completely nothing to do with anything I did before, but it was so fun. And now I have started my own climate research lab called Asterisk Labs with a couple of colleagues from the European Space Agency. And we are a worker-owned cooperative, which means we all own it equally and we don't have any shareholders and we're not for profit. And we're working on looking at cloud data from space satellites that's typically discarded because nobody likes clouds, but we do. And that's all I have to say.
Wow. Well, you all did amazingly well with that format. Thank you so much. That was really exciting and inspiring. All right, Ilana, are you ready to jump in for the Q&A?
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, well, we're gonna move on to the next portion of our event. Thank you again to our panelists today for those amazing lightning talks. They're so hard to do and they get so stressful, but they're so fun and they're really enjoyable for us to watch. So sorry for making you sweat, but it was great. So moving on with our Q&A portion of the event, thank you so much to our attendees for sending us your questions in the registration form. We had a lot of questions and we found some common themes. We've narrowed it down to 5 key themes or key questions, and the leading questions will be pasted into the chat by our awesome moderator, Raymat. And as a reminder, there'll be additional opportunity to ask more questions during the breakout session. So we're going to move on with these prefabbed questions. Okay, question 1. Awesome. So question 1 is, what is the best way to market a skill set acquired through a nonlinear career pathway? And I believe Helen is going to start us off with helping us think about this question.
Thanks. Yeah. So in my field, it's very interdisciplinary, and I served as a hiring manager for several positions. And what I look for from the perspective of a hiring manager is the storytelling. It's important to do the research for the organization that you want to join. And even though you might have a nonlinear pathway, it's describing the use of the verbs of the transferable skills or experience that you have and meshing it with the storytelling that you convey in your resume, and your storytelling becomes compelling. I always start off with asking a lot of our applicants, tell me your origin story. You know, why are you so impassioned about your field or the work, or what are your value systems? How did that all incorporate into the skills you honed over the years? And tell me why that's applicable to my organization or this key position. And again, hiring managers want to have a conversation for you. So, you know, do the research and relax. Think about like key phrases you want to highlight. I remember when I went from you know, nonprofit world to the you know, a state government agency. I was really nervous, thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't done wetlands. I'm not sure if I'm capable of doing this. And I was incorrect with my insecurities. I did the research as to what that program did. And I realized I have a lot of good communication skills with landowners, with farmers, and how to connect with folks. So describing that, those are key skills that a lot of employees are looking for. And then your technical skills, you know, highlight and lean into that. And then again, connect it, make that connection to that new position that you really, really want. But yeah, again, it takes a little bit of work, but again, focus on what you want to leave as a lasting impression. And again, stories resonate with people instead of like, you know, just bullet points on your resume. The story of how you got here is compelling.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for helping us start this off with a really awesome answer. I welcome any of our other panelists to chime in and say if anything resonated with them or if they have any additional advice on top of what Helen has suggested.
Yeah, I was going to say that often when you meet people, particularly who've had very linear pathways, they don't actually have very much experience beyond sort of going to school, going to university, working in a university as a postdoc or a PI. And so if you've already had a bit of non-linear experience, that can be hugely transferable, and is often what's missing in science. And then if you have had a linear pathway and you're thinking of changing it, it's an opportunity to learn more new things that are then going to help you later in your career. So I've found it's been very helpful to have a bit of a breadth of experience and stand out in a pile of resumes as well, rather than just being one of a million sort of faceless people who've done the same thing. So it definitely does help set you apart.
That's a fantastic answer in addition. All right, I think we should move on to question number 2. And our moderator is going to put that up on screen shortly. And here we go. How were you able to take a nonlinear pathway with changing life priorities? And so Anna is going to start us off on answering this.
So in my case, I have been rejected from positions because I was too young and then I was too old, or maybe my life story was a little bit different than a lot of people. So I think the major problem was when I moved from this senior to student transition. So it was difficult at first, but eventually I felt very satisfied because for me, it engaged with a passion that I had, and I was not able to follow in the previous version of myself, because I like to see it like every change, it takes a new version of myself. So when I went back to be a student, even if I was older than a lot of people, it was also common for the people from the global south. So you get to school later, you leave sometimes family on hold, and every academic path is not the same. But every life skill, even if it's a simple job, it allows you to develop new ways to interact with people and give you new perspectives that you are able to use it into your own career. So for me, and I will piggyback with Helen said before, the storytelling. So it's not only how you present your work, it's taking into consideration like the smallest work, or even if it's social sciences and ocean sciences can be very different, but having the opportunity to use both of all of the unique set of skills that you are developing through the time, it actually changes the priorities. And I will insist, if you have a linear path, try to break it a little bit. It allows you to see a huge lot of perspectives and engage differently with your career. Thank you.
It's a great answer. Thank you so much. I think Jacqueline maybe has some things to add to this question.
Yeah, so for the sort of first big major switch I had, where I went from not working or understanding science at all, it was really my life priorities of like, what do I want to do with my life? And a lot of people said when I was on London Underground, oh, you don't want to quit this, it's a job for life. And I was like, that's what I'm worried about. Like, so it was like, I'm unhappy in this job, I want to do something else. And so that made me want to switch to do something else. And then later, when I was studying Mars, a lot of the people I spoke to who aren't in space science, even other scientists, were like, no, they already found life on Mars, like in the 70s. And I was like, no, they didn't. And so I was thinking, what does it matter if I find, I mean, I do think it's a worthwhile thing to search for extraterrestrial life, obviously, but does it make a difference to people? And so my life priorities in terms of my values of like, what do I want to do with the knowledge I've gained and the skills I've gained, and climate was like a really obvious one that's like a very pressing issue. And so that enabled me to take a non-linear path and move back to, in some ways, as Anna was describing, being like a student again when you pivot to a new discipline and you don't know anything again. But I felt like the things I'm doing are maybe going to make a difference to climate change and make a real difference to people's lives in a way that maybe looking for aliens doesn't. But yeah, I still think it's good to look for aliens. And I also thought that the more I studied science, the more I saw the value in interdisciplinary science. So therefore, taking a nonlinear pathway allows you to move in and out of different fields and collaborate with people across fields, which I think is incredibly important, and is obviously something that Helen and Anna have been able to do. By moving in all these different worlds, you can help translate between those worlds of people who don't usually speak to each other or don't understand each other well, and improve the speed of scientific progress, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I think it's still important to look for aliens. I don't know. Seems like an awful waste of space otherwise. Our next question should be coming up on screen shortly. To get us started, what was the largest challenge you faced when making a decision to switch career direction? Did you face any negative perceptions from your colleagues? And I think, Jacqueline, again, you're going to start us off with this one. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, as I alluded to before, a lot of people said you were silly to quit, and being a train driver in London Underground is pretty well paid. So I went from like a pretty decent wage to a sort of below minimum wage to go back to university, and then I had to work like retail jobs and care jobs at the same time as studying. So that was quite a big challenge financially. And I think that obviously that can be very much compounded if you have other financial and time responsibilities, like caring responsibilities and stuff. So that for me was the biggest challenge. But then I also knew that longer term, in terms of career growth and personal self-growth, that I was kind of investing that money, as it were, into me. So any financial loss I had then was going to be paid back by enjoying my life more and understanding more, and then potentially doing other things in the future. So yeah, there was quite a lot of negative perceptions from, especially I'm from a very working class sort of poor background. And so even my own family and stuff are like, God, what is this PhD? Like, you've been doing it for a year now. When is it going to end? And so, you know, trying to kind of navigate that and get people to understand. So there were a lot of sort of negative perceptions, but I think Anna was saying seeking out and finding those mentors who will support you as you go through this journey is really, really important. So you've got people on your team, and then that enables you to overcome any of the kind of criticism and negativity, or address any genuine sort of like constructive criticism that you're getting as you move forward.
Great, thank you. And I welcome our other two panelists. If you have anything to contribute or resonate with, please jump in. Okay. Oh, great.
I wanted to sorry. I think the biggest challenge for my career was myself, thinking like, can I really do this? Can I shift gears? Do I really want to? Is this the great move? And I had colleagues when I was leaving from nonprofit work to state government. They're like, why? Why are you doing this? This is crazy. They don't get anything done. Why would you go from being so flexible in a nonprofit world to there? And for me, I had to think about what my value systems were. And I really wanted to have an impact on a large scale. And for working for an agency that had 1 million acres to manage, I thought, wow, I could have an impact here. I can utilize what I know about restoration and that the sciences involved, and really influence people on within the agency themselves to take on bigger risks of managing things differently for the purpose of protecting natural resources. So a lot of it was convincing myself and not falling into the doubt that some of my colleagues in the nonprofit world telling me like, oh my gosh, don't go. Why do you even stay there? And I thought, 3 years is good. But again, I wanted to go for the impact and convince myself, go back to nonprofits. But yeah, it's my biggest challenge was myself.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think this is such an important question too. Anna, do you have a contribution to this one? Yeah.
Yes, please. So I was initially overlooked when I started in science properly, but eventually it was fun to see like the students that were younger than me and then start coming to me for advice because they were not able to, let's say, to engage in certain activities that require more social skills that they lacked so far. So it was interesting to see like how they start first overlook at me and then see me as part of their like additional supervisor or mentor. Like they feel like I was able to coach them in a different way or help them to translate from different perspectives, not only within the academia, but when they are started doing these projects with different schools, let's say, or different faculties or different institutions, they found out that they lack so much, like just having the technical knowledge made nothing when they wanted to get the work done. So in my case, I was jumping from the United Nations to NGOs to the government. I also worked with the Red Cross and the academia. So having all of these different perspectives, it allowed me to see that first, I cannot just stay in one place. Because I need like this balance, and sometimes like one specific position, it's not gonna give me like the coverage. And also part of the intention is I came to realize that I need the outreach and being part of networks because I want to give those support or this helping a lot of like people to be able to transcend to a lot of these lacking opportunities that they have. So having like joining different networks and different communities allow me to share, especially when I know like, well, in the case I continue with the Global South, we have a lot of constraints. So being able, like at least within the group of Latinas, we're able to empower ourselves to continue, or at least just give each other a back. And it means like, okay, it's a lot for us. Having cheerleaders behind you makes a big difference. So sometimes if I was alone, I felt like it will be more difficult to make these transitions. But being part of different networks, it allowed me to make better decisions about my career and also finding like, oh, what do I want to do? And even if they are overlooked because of this different transitioning that I had initially, it also helped me to, okay, let's see it the positive way, or let me show them my skills and help them develop their own skills in a way like we can continue and work together. Because if we are going to be a team, we actually need to be a team.
Thank you so much. That was great additions and answers. Let's move on to our next question. Has your nonlinear career pathway disadvantaged you in any way? And I think Jacqueline's going to start us off.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've kind of chopped and changed a fair amount, and I think that this can make it quite difficult for you if you're applying for roles or thinking about going into something that does require that incredibly deep, narrow focus. Then you are not going to be as qualified as somebody who has done that. And so I think that it really depends on what type of scientist or what kind of career you want, because some people really love working away at the same problem and writing paper after paper that incrementally gets us closer and closer to understanding something, and they have an incredibly deep knowledge, and those people are absolutely invaluable when I'm like, I need to know somebody that knows everything about this, and you go and find that person. And so I think you kind of, I mean, you've all attended this because perhaps you're interested in nonlinear pathways or have had one. So maybe you're not that kind of researcher, but I think you have to be quite honest with yourself. If you are that kind of person who wants to have a very deep, narrow focus that you really, really know a subject, then by all means stick to one thing and kind of like keep tunneling deeper and deeper. Because it can affect your ability to apply for and get roles that require that. However, I think a huge number of researchers are like this and sort of stay within their fields. And so you can actually set yourself apart and find it easier to find other jobs and other roles that probably suit you better for your personality and your style if you have got that broader range. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a disadvantage, but it would certainly make it more difficult for you to carry on down the same path. So I think a little bit of self-reflection and understanding what it is you want from your career and what you're interested in will help you decide which path you should take, and then you can decide if it would be a disadvantage for you to flit around and try everything as I have.
Great, thank you. And I think maybe Helen has some additional to add to this.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jacqueline said. It all depends on your goals and your values, right? And for me, I didn't see having a nonlinear career pathway as a disadvantage until I was thinking of leaving the government work. Thinking, oh, well, where do I go? Do I work for a consulting firm now? And with all my accumulated experience and skill sets, am I appealing to a consulting firm? But do I want to do that work? And with all the experiences and jobs that I've had, or job functions that I've had in the past, I've always had my fingers in a lot of different things and interacting with a lot of different science disciplines. And that was really exciting to me. So going back or going to something where I have to kind of narrow my focus was going to be a disadvantage to me. So I kind of like the idea of just being open and pivoting. It actually makes it more fun. You utilize a lot of different skill sets when you have to communicate with divergent stakeholders. You have to, like Anna said, it's really fun to kind of decipher or disseminate that information to different audiences. And that, to me, working with hydraulic engineers, geomorphologists, policy folks, state and federal agencies that are regulatory agencies, made it really appealing. So again, it all depends on your value systems and what you think is exciting for your career. And for me, I like diversity in tasks.
I think we have a bit of time still. If Anna, if you want to jump in with anything on this question. No obligation. Okay, great. Then I think, oh, sorry.
No, it's like I think I covered this like last time, like in my last comment, because it did affect me, but it was more like my own decision of what I want and what make me feel full. So, and I came to realization, okay, I need to have at least like a 70-30 balance to be able to feel good in the kind of job that I'm gonna do.
Yeah, sorry, can I just add one more thing, Ilana? I think it's particularly for women, it can contribute to imposter syndrome as well, where you just like, I don't know what I'm doing, I shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough. And so I think it's very important to kind of go, well, no, it's completely normal and natural if you move to a new field or a new role or have to exercise a set of new skills. If you were working with somebody else that was in that position, you'd be like, oh, no problem, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it, like give it some time, and to just treat yourself with that same gentleness, and not let imposter syndrome get to you. Like somebody would have noticed if you weren't supposed to be there, like you're fine.
I think that's a really important addition. Thank you so much. I think that applies for people even not changing career pathways and starting a new role. So to allow yourself that grace period. Okay, so we have a final question here for everyone, and it would be great if all of our panelists contributed answers to this. And that is, what are your top tips for navigating a nonlinear career pathway? And maybe we can just, for simplicity, looks like Jacqueline's ready.
I
your screen was on.
I don't know why. I didn't do anything, but I mean, I'm happy to go first, but I also am aware I'm like taking up too much airspace, so happy for one of the others to go first.
I don't know. I feel like your background is appropriate for taking the space here. So go for it, and then we'll hear from Anna and Helen. How about that?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of reiterate what I said before. Treat yourself as you would a very loved friend who was having a hard time. Just be kind to yourself. And also just follow what you enjoy. And particularly if you're applying for new roles, I'd say it's quality over quantity. So don't just go, I'm just going to apply for everything, even slightly tangentially related, that I don't actually really want to do, but I want to get into this field or, change. Find what really resonates with you, and spend your time learning about that or applying to that. And the scattershot thing doesn't really work so well. I think you need to kind of be a bit discerning in picking what you want to do next.
Yeah, I will say like find a good supervisor, because having somebody that has your back makes a huge difference. So if anyone is thinking about applying to a job or a program, try to look for the work environment, or try to look for that particular supervisor, because a good environment and a good team makes a huge difference, rather than have like joining an Ivy League position. So I will say first, a good supervisor, at least one person that is going to be very supportive of you or will have your back, makes the huge difference. And second, if you cannot have so much support from your particular environment, look for one community that is going to be like your personal cheerleaders. And it makes the huge difference when you are either abroad or in a difficult position or in a difficult job, to be able to continue, because you know, like it's the feeling that you are not together. Other people relate to you and you are able to all together get different support from either at the academic level or sometimes personal level. So, or just taking care of your own well-being, because having that balance makes the huge difference. And sometimes the imposter syndrome kick it in too hard. So looking for you, being kind to yourself, it's one of the major things when you're either in a linear or no-linear path. It's just take care of yourself, look for a community if you feel you are needed, and look for a good supervisor.
I agree with everything that Jacqueline and Anna has said. I think as a hiring manager, I look for candidates that will fit our company culture, but I want to encourage applicants to do the same. Grill those your future employees with the same questions. Ask them about their philosophy or their culture of their, what kind of a work environment are you entering? I really pushed them hard for it. I'm impressed with applicants that come in just wanting to know, how would they fit in? Where would their role be? How does my job function coincide with other folks? And really take that opportunity during the interview process to really find if this is a good fit for your skills and for your personality and for your journey throughout your career. Is this a place for me to grow?
Those are some great answers. Thank you so much. I believe we're going to transition back now to the rest of our program, and then we will go into some breakout rooms.